Now we go to exercises. We will first address mobility, and we will go from hip mobility further on. Hip mobility consists of different, of course, areas, and here you can see the combination of psoas release and dynamic flexibility. Not only psoas, lower left you see psoas, and lower right you see rectus. There are certain tests, you can learn them from physiotherapy. Thomas test is one of them, and it can help you assess is maybe psoas issue or the rectus femoris. So this is potential problem if you have tight psoas. You probably know anatomy of psoas, and you know that if you lack flexibility of psoas, you also have limited extension. So your gluteus is not working properly, and a proper gluteus activation is one of the most important things for not only locomotor health, but also for performance. So hip flexor flexibility is something that's very important. And here the most important parts are psoas and rectus muscles. External rotation is sometimes a problem for football players, and if you analyze football passing, this type of movement is of course very important. Here you can see certain progression, or you can say combination of different exercises. The start is from foam rolling, or you can use the ball to go deeper into the muscle tissue. After that, you can combine static and dynamic stretching. And what I like to always emphasize with my players is, as you can see down here, exploration of movement. So even though they do stretching by themselves, I encourage players to explore the different positions. Here you can see the leg across more or less. Here you can see hip movement to the heel. You can see hip movement left and right. I want them to explore. Why? Because sometimes athlete is his own coach. An athlete needs to be aware of what he does. An athlete feels very good what's happening when he performs certain exercise. So encourage exploration of movement, and let's take it another step from just assuming position and stretching. Let's educate players and let's make them aware of what we do and why we do it. In many of these slides, you will see some kind of progression from the floor to sitting or kneeling position to standing position. I think it's very important to address in every session, for example, in every session to start with one exercise laying down, one exercise sitting, kneeling and standing, to connect them in certain progression. Why? Because I need acute effects. I need to see some results very fast. I need to see better range of motion right now. That's very important, and progression and good combination of different tools and different exercises can help me to see fast results. So, important word in modern physical conditioning philosophy is variability. Variability in everything. And in this way, variability in different, as I said, tools and different strategies is very important, and it can be beneficial for gaining fast effects and significant effects. Internal rotation of the hip and adduction, also a very important topic. Down here on the left, you can see another type of exploration. So not only assuming positions, but change positions and see what works best for you. In upper right exercise, I don't know if it's really visible, but this young player is encouraged to perform abdominal breathing. Abdominal breathing is very important when you perform mobility work, because abdominal breathing is activating parasympathetic pathways, and parasympathetic pathways are responsible for relaxation, and it's allowing you better range of motion, sometimes instantly. Sometimes in breathing out you gain a little bit of range of motion. So breathing as we know, is very important for our life. When we were babies, we had the perfect breathing pattern. We had abdominal breathing. We used diaphragm, which is a very important muscle for us, and we used it not only to breathe, but also to stabilize our spine. Today, if you sit a lot, today, if you are stressed, stress is shallow breathing, stress is sympathicus, and it's not healthy, of course, to live all day in sympathicus. You have to be in good balance of these parts of nervous system, and abdominal breathing is one way to have enough relaxation. It's one way for not only physical but also emotional balance because of these same reasons. Thoracic mobility, another important part of the whole mobility concept. And mobility we can define as having ability for optimal range of motion. So thoracic mobility, for that it's important to be good in rotation and extension. Those are the typical, for example, problems, and we can see many of these problems with young players. So these few exercises can solve those problems. I think it's important to try to find top 20% of something which solves 80% of problems. This is famous Pareto principle from different areas, from economy, for example. 20% of what I do is solving 80% of my problems. I'm trying in this presentation to give you what I think are those 20% of most important things which can solve 80% of potential problems. So for thoracic mobility, not only thoracic mobility, but of course posture, these might be some of these 20% of exercises which also you can see certain progression. You can see exercise on top left on the floor with the small peanut between the scapula. You can see the foam rolling of latissimus in the middle up, and then you can see other exercises which are upper right, more passive exercise, then coming to sitting position, lower left, a little bit more active exercise, which involves not only rotation but also extension. Then down in the middle you see a little bit more active kneeling down exercise, and in the end you come up and you perform exercise in unstable environment, single leg, and very, very, very active thoracic mobility in rotation. So this type of complex can be performed in one pre-warm-up session with player who has big problems with thoracic mobility. These 6 exercises can be performed in single session with progression. So maybe you can do sometimes only 1, sometimes 2 sets. It can be beneficial for a player who has this type of problem. Ankle mobility, another important topic. As I said, dorsiflexion is typical problem, especially for players who had previous ankle injuries, distortions. So it's again combination of foam rolling, which has different ways, and any way can be good. You can find trigger points, you can do continuous rolling, many different things, and we can transform that into standing position and into trying to find better mobility, for example using the wall or something to hold on. Who has the best core? This is the general question, and the answer to this question explains some of the philosophy of core training. The answer is very simple. They all have the best core, but everybody has the best core for their own demands, for their own work. For example, if you take a look at aesthetics of a person on top left and Cristiano Ronaldo, aesthetically there is no big difference. But for example, this guy on top left, he only wants to look good. If you only want to look good, what's most important thing? Nutrition, number 1. Number 2, again, nutrition. And number 3, you have to do 3 training sessions per week, which makes sense. If you want to be able to withstand all of the demands that the top level football player has to do, you have to do many different things. Many different things in sessions which are maybe sometimes separate from training session, in pre-warm-up, after session, especially during team sessions. So demands sometimes are first step in diagnostics also. So diagnostics doesn't have to come from the basic field. Diagnostics sometimes can come from the pitch. And I want to talk to football coach about what he thinks this player is lacking. What does he have to do better? Is his maybe jumping, timing not good? That's a big problem. For example, his vertical jump is good, but timing is not good. So I assess vertical jump and I see it's a good result. I don't do anything. This is not the good way. That's why sometimes it's important to go to diagnostics or assessment from the end, from the pitch, from the coach's opinion, from sometimes my opinion when I see my player moving on the pitch. What can he do better? Is his foot placement in deceleration optimal? Maybe yes, maybe no. So all of these things are important, and the basic idea about this slide is first you have to see the demands. When you see the demands, it will be clear what you have to do. That's why when you talk about core stability philosophy, actually you don't have to do single crunch, never again, but you have to do many other things. I tried to divide many exercises for core stability into three basic groups, into three basic levels. So level 1 is again breathing. Again, I mentioned breathing as something is very important. And basic activation. At first, it's basic activation of transverse abdominal muscle, which is the one that fires first when you need to have spine stability. So, as you can see, all of these exercises are performed on the floor. That's why this is level 1. And to do only level 1 is not enough. We have to bring it up. So, on top left, you can see, for example, one kind of breathing. You can use many different methodologies. You can use DNS breathing, DNS methodology and exercises. You can use many other things. And this is also area for collaboration with physiotherapists and medical people to find the best way to activate the most important muscles at the right time. And this last sentence that I said, actually, that's stability. Stability is ability to maintain optimal body position no matter what. It sounds simple, and it can be simple. I think it's important for you to create your own explanations, to create your own sentences, your own little stories about some parts of your philosophy. So breathing and activation of transverse abdominal muscle is very important. Here you can see on top middle, top right and low left, you can see, for example, some kind of dead bug progression. And the basic idea about these exercises is to create new habit, to create new motor control, new habit of activating proper muscles when I do something with my arms or legs. That's life. That's football. So football is not really crunch. Football is creating habit of having optimal muscles activated on optimal level when I do something with my arms and legs when I move. So that's the basic, that's the starting point of this part of philosophy.